About an hour and a half. Almost two
About
weeks.
nine. It's about 90 minutes.
We had Klaus Kinski last week, so we went on and on and on.
Klaus Kinski.
Klaus Kinski.
Yeah, he was here, and
we covered his films last week.
He's dead.
I know, but we just covered his films.
But not me. I probably bought him at an auction, and he's here next to me.
We showed a bunch of his trailers and posters, and
He was an interesting guy.
Hi, everybody, and welcome once again to the Spaghetti Westerns podcast. I am your host, Jay Jennings, as we come to you every week and discuss all things spaghetti westerns. We review spaghetti western films, and we mostly discuss the careers of spaghetti western actors and directors. And we've done shows on posters, and we've shown trailers. And so, okay, that's great. So anyway, we've got the backup camera going. I'm always prepared, folks. But anyway, we've done shows on a lot of things. And let's see, there we're back.
Frozen.
Yeah, frozen in time. But anyway, so we do these shows because we want to showcase spaghetti westerns to a new audience, and an audience who have been fans of spaghetti westerns for 40, 50 years. So Tom and I, and let me introduce the wonderful Tom Betts. Hi, Tom.
Hi, guys. Hi, Jay.
Hi, Tom. I was getting things squared up. How was your week?
Fine.
Good. Glad to hear it. Tom is our resident spaghetti western historian, and he does his famous news of the week and obits as always. So what we're going to do, as I was finishing, I was just saying that we hope when we do this show, we open up a door to you fans out there who enjoy spaghetti westerns, and maybe you don't know too much about a certain film or an actor, and that makes you go, oh, let me go see that film, or let me go check out that actor, because maybe you were only aware of one or two of their films, and now Tom and I have enlightened you to maybe 3 or 4. Not always great, but they're always fun, because spaghetti westerns, if anything, are fun, right, Tom?
That's right. They've always got something to look forward to while you're watching them. Outfits, gizmos, fights, lots of action. So there's always something in there. Musical score.
Right, exactly. And today we've decided we do this on occasion where we showcase 2 actors, 2 for the price of 1. We did it with Claudio Camaso and Gian Maria Volante. And I think we did it one other time, but we're going to do it again today, as we're going to feature 2 very well-known spaghetti actors. They didn't make a lot of them, but they're still very known in the genre. And we're talking about Antonio Sabato and Glenn Saxson. Both are favorites of mine. I love how they act and how they've done different characters. I have favorite films that both of them were in. And they're just good guys. They don't have the big filmography like let's say an Anthony Stephan has, or a Lee Van Cleef, but they still have a prominent role, right, Tom?
Yeah, some of these, both of these guys came into the genre late, and Glenn, for one, only did about 7,
something like
6
that,
or 7, and Antonio Sabato did about a few more. But both of them were supporting actors that became lead actors.
Right. And so we decided, Tom and I, to take a look at their films and career, and by showing a poster and a photo from each of their career. And Tom will read a bio, and then I'll go ahead and read a synopsis of a certain film. And as I said, when we read these reviews, Tom and I are kind of like the Siskel and Ebert of spaghetti westerns. You can take it in, whether this is a film that you want to sort out and see, or you'll pass on. Hopefully you'll watch them all, except for what, the yellow, black, and the red, and 2 karate kickers and a can of beans.
Also one called Modello. Yeah.
Oh, Tom. Anyway, so unless you want to check out the Modello soundtrack. Do you have the soundtrack, Tom, even though you hate the film?
Yeah, I've got it on CD.
That's what I thought. He listens to it every time he visits the can. Anyway, so let's begin our show. We're going to start off by doing a review on the career of the spaghetti westerns of Antonio Sabato, who unfortunately passed away last year due to COVID. Terrible. I think we probably might have gotten him on the show, Tom.
Yeah, he's hard. He's a hard guy to track down. We never interviewed him for the fanzine, but Mike Malloy was able to get him and put him on his Eurocrime documentary, so you could at least see him and listen to his bio on Eurocrime.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Antonio Sabato first, Tom, and you can give us a little bio on him.
Okay, I contacted Mike Malloy to see if he had any information that he got out of Antonio about his career before he came over to the United States or early on the spaghetti westerns and the crime films, but he said no. Antonio only talked about what he was doing after he came to the United States. So we've both heard that he was sort of difficult to get along with when he was in Italy, and that's one of the reasons why he came over here, because his son, Antonio Sabato Jr., was doing so well. He had a place to go, and all I can come up with was what I'm going to give you. So don't be upset that it's not deeper than it is. But Antonio Sabato was born on April 2nd, 1943 in Montelepre, Sicily, Italy. After undertaking manual labor that tempered his body and mind, he moved to Palermo, where he began to make himself known by distributing his photos to entertainment agents. He started his acting career in 1966 in the Italian film Lo Scandalo. Later that year, he co-starred as Ferrari racing ace Nino Barlini in Grand Prix, an American film with an international cast of actors. The film won 3 Academy Awards, and Antonio was nominated for a Golden Globe Award as Most Promising Newcomer. Maybe it went to his head and he became difficult to act with. I don't really know, but Sabato starred in everything from spaghetti westerns to science fiction projects like War of the Robots. He then immigrated to the United States with his family in 1984, where he devoted his time to painting and family life. Once in the States, he continued to act in films like Bye Bye Vietnam and High Voltage. His last credit was as Aldo Damiano in a 2006 run of The Bold and the Beautiful, a soap opera. He was married to actress Yvonne Sabato from 71 to 93. Antonio is the father of actor Antonio Sabato Jr. and grandfather of actor Jack Sabato. Sabato died on January 10th, 2021 from, like Jay said, complications of COVID-19 at a hospice in Hemet, California. He was 77.
Yeah, that's very sad, of course. Yeah, he had a good look, a rugged look. He was also a race car driver, wasn't he, Tom?
Yeah. Also, I mean, I never saw a father and son that looked so much alike. I mean, there's always family resemblances in some of these guys, but they looked like identical twins, more like brothers than they did father and son. That'd have been a good pairing to make one of these young man, older man films. You know, let's advance the this guy's age 20 years and then have senior come in. But
Right.
that was amazing to see. Sometimes when you see pictures of them, you don't know if it's junior or senior.
Right. I wonder if they both had the same political views, Tom.
Yeah, that may be another reason why he came to the States. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, we're going to show the posters and a still from each of his spaghetti westerns. And the first one is Hate for Hate, the first spaghetti western Antonio Sabato made. Odio per Odio was the Italian title, 1967, directed by Domenico Paolella. And it was with Antonio Sabato, the great John Ireland, of course, Mirko Ellis, Nadia Marconi, and the beautiful Gloria Milland. I will now read the story. Let's show the poster. Jim Cooper, played by John Ireland, has a problem with his partner, Morton, played by Mirko Ellis. And during a bank robbery, when a man is killed, Cooper is caught and sent to prison for life. In prison, he meets the young miner Miguel, played by Sabato, who was also in the bank during the robbery, innocently withdrawing his savings, like everybody else is, and arrested as one of the robbers. Miguel promises Cooper he will look out for the outlaw's family once he is released from prison. In the meantime, Morton has kidnapped the family and made off with all the money from the robbery. Cooper eventually escapes from prison and goes after Miguel, uh, who he thinks has double-crossed him. After realizing his mistake, the two team together and they go after and settle their differences with Morton. It's actually a very good movie. Great. Sabato and Ireland bounce off each other nicely. But Tom, seems like there were a lot of writers on this one.
Yeah, how many we got listed on here?
Four?
We've got four. Yeah, Mario Amendola, Bruno Corbucci, which is Sergio's brother, Fernando Di Leo, who wrote a ton, Domenico Paolella. So they had some good writers. Maybe that's why it's a very decent movie. Also, it starts off with the familiar being two guys or more robbing a bank, and one gets double crossed and sent to prison. I mean, we've seen that several times, but this one's a little bit different in the fact that Sabato is captured by mistake and then let go and takes care of Ireland's family. Except when Ireland gets out, he thinks Sabato is the one who double crossed him when really it's his old partner.
Right. John Ireland's always playing the double crosser for some reason in all these movies. But a great film. Check it out if you can. Great title, great poster, and a very enjoyable entry in the spaghetti western genre. So moving on, Antonio Sabato's next spaghetti western, they paired him up with the great LVC, Lee Van Cleef, for Beyond the Law, also known as The Good Die First, The Outrider, The Last Bill Is Yours, and Blood Silver. The Italian title is Al di là della Legge. And it was directed by Giorgio Stegani, and it stars Lee Van Cleef, Antonio Sabato, the great Gordon Mitchell, Lionel Stander, Al Husman, Bud Spencer is in this. I totally forgot about that, Tom. And Griselia Granada. And let me see if I could find the poster and read you a little bit about the story. An outlaw, Billy Joe Coolip, played by LVC, decides to change his life and become one of the good guys. So he befriends a young mining engineer, Ben Novak, played by Sabato, and after rescuing the mine payroll for mine manager Cooper, played by Bud Spencer, he's named the sheriff. He soon finds himself torn between the forces of good and evil, upholding the law or succumb to the temptation of joining his old henchman, Preacher, played by Lionel Stander, and Al Husman. They rob a shipment of silver worth a fortune. Suddenly, an outlaw gang led by the notorious Burton, played by Gordon Mitchell, who captures the town and holds the citizens hostage. Cudlip, Preacher, Al, and Novak join forces to defeat the outlaws, and then Billy Joe must face Preacher and Al. Sabato does really well. Another great, in a way, he's one of those actors who seems to maybe play himself, Tom.
Yeah, and he holds his own with Lee and also with John Ireland in the film we covered before. For a young actor, I mean, he really holds his own.
Right, and LVC, Sabato plays a pacifist. It's like Gemma does.
Yeah, he never uses a gun, right?
I never understood that, how you can be a gunslinger or take part in a spaghetti western and not handle a gun. I mean, Man of the East you can understand, but when you're a gunslinger, how do you not at least carry something? But sometimes they carry a knife in the boot or something. But anyway.
Well, he doesn't use a gun until the very end, when they face Gordon Mitchell. The other one, like you said in this, is Bud Spencer. If you looked at the poster, it's almost like they squeezed his name in. He hasn't got a beard. You almost unrecognizable. So this must have been one of his pretty early films.
Right, exactly. So I forgot he was in it as well. But I like this film too. It's a good, as I said, Sabato made one good film. As I said, he not a huge star in spaghetti westerns, but when he's in them, he has a good screen presence, and this was one of them. And the first two, he's very good in them, and he's actually good in his third one. Called I Came, I Shot, I Saw, I Shot, I Had a Beer with Tom Betts. And also known as The Three Who Upset the West, $1 Too Many. Spanish title is Llego, Veo, Disparo. Italian title is Vado, Vedo, y Sparo. 1968, Italian co-production. Let's see, did I find it? Yeah. And it's actually a very, very good film, as I said. Great cast: Antonio Sabato, John Saxon, Frank Wolf, Agata Flori, and Leo Anchoris. And the story goes, Edwin Keane, Edwin Keane, played by Frank Wolf, you see him up there on the left, impersonates a preacher in order to plant a stack of Bibles containing dynamite with a timer onto a stagecoach. The coach contains 400 grand, is held up and robbed by Moses Lang, played by Sabato, who takes the mailbag, which contains the dynamite, and narrowly avoids being blown up. When the stagecoach reaches the Springwood Bank, a gambler named Clay Watson, played by John Saxon, who just won 130 grand at the poker table and is told to collect his winnings from the bank. But Clay finds that Moses and Keane have teamed up and have robbed the bank. The three rogues now take turns stealing the money from each other in a series of double crosses, fake marriages, and plenty of fisticuffs. The three must unite to fend off an attack of a gang of Mexican bandits, what else, who have gotten wind of the loot, and then the U.S. Army is sent to recover it. It's one of those who's got the money movies, Tom.
Exactly. Yep. Plus, every time as the movie goes along, the odds keep getting bigger on who joins in the fight for the money. But It's got a great cast. Enzo Castellari directed it, so you know there's plenty of action.
Oh, of course. Yeah, lots of fights, and there's some slapstick, which, I could do without, but it lightens the load a little bit. John Saxon, his mustache looked like Groucho Marx, Tom.
Yeah, there's scenes where if you watch it, his mustache glistens in the sun like it was painted on, not just a fake mustache glued on. It looks like something they used paint.
Right. And this has a gimmick, which I love gimmick guns, Tom. This one, I guess it's 4 pistols connected in one, Tom.
Yeah, he's got 2 pistols. Each pistol has 2 barrels. So he's got, 24 shots?
Right. No, so I love stuff like that. The gimmicks and stuff like that, which you mostly see in Sartana movies. But this one has some good gimmicks. And Tom, some people consider this a sequel to Any Gun Can Play due to the similar characters, but I think it's a separate film, but I can see how people would think that.
Yeah, I agree with you, G. I never thought of that, but in reading some of the reviews, they try and tie it together with Any Gun Can Play, but, what the heck.
Right. Well, that's fine, but, it all depends how you watch them. You can make up, there's no law to this. If you think a movie is related to another in your own mind, so be it. So anyway, let's move on to the next film. Yet another good film in Antonio Sabato's spaghetti western career. I'm still waiting for, 2 Frankfurters, a taco, and a can of beans, Tom. But anyway, of course, we're talking about one of my favorite Klaus Kinski appearances, and that's Twice a Judas, or Dos Veces Judas, or Shoot Twice, or They Were Called Graveyard, a 1968 Spanish-Italian co-production directed by Fernando Cicero, and stars Antonio Sabato, Klaus Kinski, Cristina Galbo, and Pepe Calvo. And let's talk about the story. Let's see if I have the right poster. Oh, sorry, I skipped. I skipped again. There we go. Anyway, so Luke Barrett, played by Sabato, who's lost his memory after a few blows, find out he's been hired by a gunman who's made him a proposition to shoot a certain dingus, played by Klaus. At the time of the attack, Luke arrives to prevent the killing of Betty, Cristina Galbo, and saves her life and kills the assassin. Subsequently, however, in trying to reconstruct his identity, he learns the truth about Dingus. He's the son of an Indian woman, but grew up in the home of Barrett. He's killed Susan, the wife of Luke, and his brother Victor, thus allowing him to use the Barrett name and taking control of all their assets. So Luke decides to ask for an explanation from Dingus, and he goes to his ranch where he finds Russell, played by Pepe Calvo, the old family doctor, who confirms that that's indeed the truth. Dingus, fearing the vengeance of Luke, tries to kill him, but is instead killed himself. I actually like this. There's a lot of tension in this movie, Tom.
To me, again, I don't like it. Just like a man, what the one with Richard Harrison we covered last week,
Vengeance?
Man Called King or
Oh,
whatever.
right, okay.
Again, Kinski plays the same type of character. He's the best.
Well, I know
friend
why
or
this
brother.
bothers you, Tom, because everybody knows Kinski's the murderer except
That's
Sabato.
right. That's right. I mean, Pepe Calvo confirms it at the end of the movie. Everybody else in the movie just shake their head like, you idiot. Don't you know that he's the guy that killed your wife and brother?
They should have known that American journalist and spaghetti western expert Tom Betts does not like when they were making this film. They should have had the forethought to know that never make Klaus Kinski the killer and not tell the other lead in the movie.
Yeah.
It's one of it seems to be it sticks in your craw, Tom.
I think so, yep.
Right, but it's still a good movie. I mean, I actually like it a lot. I like the title too, especially, and the poster. I've got the big 4F, the
The
4
poster
sheet.
is beautiful. Yeah, that's a great poster.
The post, yeah. Well, I have another one. It's about as big as the Liberty Bell. That's how big it is. But anyway, let's move on to the next spaghetti western in the career, and it's actually I think it could be one of my favorite Antonio Sabato movies. Tom, let's see if I get the correct poster. Yep. Is that it, Tom, or is that the wrong one?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, where the bullets fly.
All the brothers in the West were something to the father
Right.
or whatever.
And I'm going to tell you why I like this the best, because of the opening scene. Basically sets the tone for me. All the brothers of the West support the father. It's a lame title. I like Where the Bullets Fly. Anyway, it's a 72 Italian, Spanish, German co-production, directed by Sergio Greco. And the reason I like this one, Tom, is that opening scene where he goes into the bar and he finds a gunslinger and he says, I want you to kill somebody. And he's all dressed in black. I guess they couldn't get Frank Wolf for that role, Tom. So he says, well, what do you want me to kill? I want you to kill me. And I was like, well, that was weird. He goes, why? Well, because I'm a no-good scoundrel. And then he goes, well, then he changed. No, in second thought, I've come to, so if you want me to kill me, go ahead, let's shoot. If it's your funeral. And instead, Sabato shoots him and says, oh, by the way, you're the one who killed my brother. I don't know. There's something about that scene that
that's
works,
different,
Tom.
isn't it? Yeah, right.
And anyway, the
twist.
story is Gippo, a young adventurer, is given a portion of a rock on which there's an engraving of a map to a legendary mine. He sets out in search of the 4 other pieces needed to complete the map. The other pieces are in the possession of a varied sample of humanity. He teams up with a prostitute, and when the mission is finally accomplished, he discovers that the mine is worthless, but do not despair. He found love with the whore anyway.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's all good, Tom. Antonio Sabato's in this. Marissa Mell is the hottie on the poster. Miss Dinah, Lionel Stander is in it again. Pete Karsten and Fernando Sancho. He has a great scene or two in this. Anyway, it is a comedy western with Tom without an ending.
Yeah.
So
They never go after the.
that was always
They never
weird.
use the maps to go. Yeah, it's a treasure hunt to get the pieces, but once they find the pieces, they don't go after the treasure.
Right, and Tom, I read you wrote Sabato's character gets on your nerves, Tom.
Yeah, he's sort of ditzy. I don't know. Like you said in the beginning, it was a nice twist, but after that, it's like, is this guy for real or what? You know.
No,
You
you're right.
never know what to believe when he says something.
That's true, but that opening scene actually, to me, makes up for it. I mean, you go in there and you just kill a fast gun right off the bat. It sets the stage, but the plot is kind of lame. But I actually enjoy it, and Marissa Mell makes it quite enjoyable herself.
Oh yeah, right.
And although she does sing one of the most ridiculous songs, this south of Kioma. Lionel Sander plays kind of a Wild West Al Capone. Where's the map? So, and he uses a 1930s car, Tom.
Yeah, there's some people that say if there's a car in the movie, it's not a Western.
I know.
Well, there's a car in this one.
Kind of like The Reward with Max von Sydow, Tom.
Yeah, yeah.
Completely
Train for
destroyed when
Durango
they
has a
get into that
car in it.
convertible.
Yep. Well, the Wild Bunch has a car, so come on.
Oh no, that one
Yeah.
passes the muster.
Yeah,
But I was
right.
watching the reward, rewatching the reward with Max von Sydow
Oh,
and
yeah.
Gilbert Roland, and I forgot that I wasn't a fan of it. You know. Anyway,
It drags. It drags. Yeah.
it does. But let's not get too much off topic. But anyway, our next spaghetti western in the oeuvre of Antonio Sabato is a film called Sentence of God, which is at least the title I like to give it, Tom. I know you like to call it With Thunder Over El Paso or something.
Yeah, Thunder over El Paso.
Yeah.
Also called the Godless Ones.
The Godless Ones is another great title, but it is Sentence of God and Minnesota Joe, which it was called in the Scandinavian countries. I Senzo Dio, which is the great Italian title. It's a 71 Italian-Spanish co-production directed by Robert Bianchi Montero. And Antonio Sabato's in it, of course, Chris Avram, the beautiful Erica Blanc, Paul Stevens, Franco Paschetto, Rennie Duis, and Jose Rivas Jaspe. Now let's see if I can find the poster. Yeah. Kind of looks like Clarence Williams III up there, Tom. From
Mod Squad.
yeah. But anyway, so in El Paso, the outlaw Corbancho, played by Jose Jaspe, robs the local bank for which a bounty of 15 grand is placed. 400 grand is then robbed in Tucson. The robbery and the killing of the bank director is blamed on Corbancho. Not everyone is of the same opinion, including the son of the murdered director, Roy McFallow, played by Sabato, also called El Santo for the number of criminals he's killed and for the number of Mexican wrestling movies he's been in, Tom. The bounty hunter known as Minnesota as well. The series of murders that take place between El Paso, there are a series of murders in Tucson. Also interested Barrett, played by Benny Dew, director of the banks together, his wife Jennifer, played by Erica Blank, and Sheriff for Sam Houston, Paul Stevens. Minnesota having run up the gambling debts equal to the bounty placed on Corbancho, accepting a partnership with Roy, who's interested in discovering the murderer of his father. The suspect is disfigured by a scar on his neck and has the intermediary between Corbancho and the unknown principal. Sheriff Sam, with his friends, will further his investigation and imprison El Santo. However, he escapes with the help of a woman. This time, the bounty hunter penetrates the lair in Corbancho and the point of his death force him to reveal the names of the principals, Barrett, Jennifer, and a stranger. Tricking the couple, forcing them to run along with Sam to where the gold is hidden. The real culprits are eliminated and the gold is recovered. El Santo, satisfied for having recognized the murderer, Sam's father, Minnesota, says he always knew his true identity as he is an agent of the Federal National Bank. How convenient, Tom.
Yeah, here we go again. Someone knows the identity to the entire film, but doesn't reveal it until the end.
Right. Another film, a little bit of comedy thrown in. Sabato gets to show off some athletic ability here. He's also quite subdued. El Santo, though, even though he's not really a saint, Tom.
Really, he's a killer.
Hey, I'm a killer. Right.
Well, remember Sentenza was angel eyes, so.
Right. And let's not forget, Tom, there's a couple Leone references, including a pocket watch, bodies being loaded into a wagon, a flashback that reveals the guilty party. You think that was done on purpose, Tom?
Oh, probably. I can't understand why you'd have three references in the same movie and not think that it wasn't influenced by Leone.
Right. And then, Tom, let's see. There's a film that we're going to talk about for a second that was never made. We do this almost every show now. We mention a film or two that was supposed to have been made, but it wasn't, called Every Minute Counts. What do you know about it, Tom?
Yeah, that's all I know. That English title, whether that was the international title or just the English title, I don't know. It was a '78 Italian film production produced by Raimondo Del Bazzo. I never heard of him. Also, the story was written by him and another guy named Giovanni Bormioli. And it was supposed to be starring Antonio Sabato. That's all I know about it.
Oh, okay. But anyway, on a whole, a very nice spaghetti western career. We know that he made other films in other genres, but he can be proud of the films he made. I mean, it's not really, as I said, there's no Franco Ciccio movie
Right.
in that. So that's why I'm a big fan of his spaghetti westerns. I, because he's just, as I said, he plays himself almost, and he's a gunslinger, and he can be mean, and that's the way I like it. Okay, Tom. So now let's move on to our second actor that we're showcasing, and that is Glenn Saxon. And what do we always, what is it that you say, Tom, when you have information to say and you reveal it to the crowd? Um, God, I can't remember what it's called, but when you know something and you tell the crowd something that before you reveal the information.
Mm.
That's a question on Jeopardy. But anyway,
Da, da, da,
right. I
da,
wish
da.
maybe I'll come up with it later. But the thing is,
Okay.
the answer to that question is we actually asked Glenn Saxon to come on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he was very nice. And he just said he's just not into modern technology, into computers or iPhones. But that's fine. It just would have been nice to just have him on the show to discuss the films we're going to talk about. But maybe in the future he'll get himself an old iPhone and come on the show. But anyway, Tom, tell us about the career of Glenn Saxon or his bio.
Okay. Well, before we start, we
Oh,
did an interview, an interview was submitted to us for the magazine W Westerns all'Italiana by Renee Hoger. It's in issue number 38, which is also has the Jack Betts interview, which we talked about when we did the Jack Betts episode. Let me show you a quick picture that Renee sent with the interview. It's 1993. There's Glenn Saxon and Renee during the interview. And a lot of the information I got on Glenn Saxon comes from that interview. So once again, thanks to Renee Hoger. Glenn Saxon was born Roel Eckhart Bos, B-O-S, in The Hague, Netherlands on March 5th, 1942. Another one of the younger guys. Bos moved to Italy in 1964 and began work doing photo novellas and television commercials. His first film appearance was as an uncredited small role in Lucio Visconti's film Sandra. Bos recalled that the film was only one day's work, but was interested in the project as it involved Claudia Cardinale. I'd be interested too. And was directed by the great Visconti. Bos then was offered leads in spaghetti westerns, with his first role being the leading man in Eduardo Malargia's Go With God Gringo. Bos recalled the origin of his name due to Western actors being obliged to take on American pseudonyms. He initially wanted to be credited as Roel Bos, but the producer and Roel only agreed on Glenn Saxon. Saxon would go on to play one of the many Django characters in Italian cinema, including starring in Django Shoots First by Alberto De Martino. Glenn would then work on his third film, Criminal, after the two westerns. He made a screen test with director Umberto Lenzi, who Glenn recalled wanted a younger character to portray Criminal than he was presented in the comics. Saxon was warned in advance that working with Lenzi could be difficult, but later recalled that working with Lenzi was easy. Glenn would return to the sequel film Il Marchio de Criminal, released in 1967 and directed by Fernando Sergio. Italian film historian and critic Roberto Curti describes Saxon's career became somehow stagnated after the two Criminal films. Excuse me. He followed them with the jungle adventure film Luana, The Girl Tarzan, and three more westerns, The Magnificent Texan, The Long Day of the Massacre, and Lynching. Towards the end of the 1960s, he began starring in German sex comedies directed by Franz Antel and Sergio Bergonzelli, such as The School of Erotic Enjoyment, before his acting career came to a halt. Glenn explained that he had more artistic ideas in mind and began producing during the 1970s and working with television company which produced programs for RAI and the television film Donnarumma dall'Assalto. Among the films Bos produced were The Profiteer by Sergio Nasca, which was shown at film festivals around the world, including Cannes, San Francisco, Brussels, and Chicago. Saxson then produced Nasca's next film, Virgin e di Nome Maria, which also was shown at various film festivals but received complaints from censors, with Glenn exclaiming, for no reason at all, because the film was not at all blasphemous as they claimed. Saxson later found the Villa Rio Mar Resort in Costa Rica in the early 1990s.
Yep, and he's still with us today, Tom.
Still with us today, yep.
Right. So now let's take a look at the spaghetti westerns of Glenn Saxson, which begins with Go with God, Gringo, as Tom mentioned. Vaya con Dios, Gringo. Good luck, Gringo. And good luck, Gringo, unless your name is Tom Betts. So anyway, I always got to throw that in, Tom, because it was called that at one point. It's a 1966 Italian film co-production, and it was directed by Eduardo Malargia. And let's see if I can find the poster for it. There it is. And Glenn Saxson, Vincenzo Mussolino, Lucretia Love, Aldo Berti, Livio Lorenzen, Pedro Sanchez, and Pasquale Simioli is in this film. An outlaw named Mexico, played by Pedro Sanchez, and 5 other men escape from prison. Among them is a man called Gringo, obviously, Saxson, who was in jail accused of the murder of his brother, which he did not commit. Once free, they flee together and reach a town where a carnival is taking place. When they are recognized, they take a dancer named Carmen hostage. I know that's my first inclination. Gringo tries to protect her, but he is left in the desert all alone. Sounds familiar, doesn't it, Tom?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the bandits rob a mail coach and kill the guards, but Gringo continues to pursue them. He eventually is able to find the real murderer and prove his innocence. At the time, he captures the 5 men he escaped with and turns them in and collects the rewards on their hands. Kind of looks like Heath from the Big Valley, Tom.
Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm.
It's a good film. It's got a good beginning scene where the convicts escape and steal a stagecoach. But what's interesting about this film, Tom, is Saxon never gets on a horse.
Yeah, he wasn't proficient at riding, so he told the director and the producer that once they signed him, so they decided, okay, we just won't have you get on a horse. All your scenes will be on foot.
Which is fine. I guess other people were on horses, right, Tom?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But who else? What other spaghetti western stars didn't like horses, but at least they rode them? Was it LVC?
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, LVC had a problem because of his knee, but he did ride.
And Robert Woods?
I'm sure. Well, Robert Woods was born a cowboy, so.
But who was it? Oh no, it was Brett. Wasn't it Brett who was thrown from a horse?
Yeah, Brett Halsey. Well, he said that Toshiro Nakadai couldn't ride a horse and kept falling off when Today We Kill, Tomorrow We Die.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, a good film. Not great, but still a good film. I think the next one is probably his best spaghetti western. Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. And we're talking about Django Shoots First. That's not it. There it is. Django Spara per Primo. And with Evelyn Stewart, of course, and Fernando Sancho. Looks like they forgot the S on the Saxon, Tom.
Yeah. Yeah. So now
Anyway,
you don't know if it's Glenn Saxon or John Saxon or who.
Right,
Saxon
exactly.
Is. He's going through a Robert Wood stage there, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no one comes close to Bob Woods. But anyway,
Bob Wood,
he who shoots first, No Mercy for Django. It's a 66 Italian film directed by Alberto Di Martino. And Fernando Sancho, as I said, is in this, and Evelyn Stewart, Alberto Lupo, the beautiful Erica Blanc once again, and Nando Gazzolo. And as the story goes, in the background, a lone rider is seen approaching a campsite. He's invited by Django to sit down at his campfire. The rider is a bounty hunter, and his victim is a man called Garvin. And the dead man turns out to be Django's father. What a coinkydink, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
So Django shoots the bounty killer, takes his father's body into town, and collects the bounty himself. In town, he's told by the local busybody, played by Fernando Sancho, that I like to smell money. And he hangs out at the bank all day. That's a good one.
Yeah, right.
And Django has become the co-owner of both the bank and the saloon. It soon becomes clear that Django's father was framed by his business partner, Cluster, played by Goslow, who now wants to get rid of the son, and Django must face a number of obstacles and 6 guns to obtain his inheritance. Now, Tom, is this an official Django movie or no?
No, because, well, Django is played by Manuel Martin, who you only see him slumped over a horse, and when they lift up his head, you recognize him. He's the actual Django. Glenn Saxson is never called Django in the movie, even though that's in the title. This is one of those movies where if you don't really care for spaghetti westerns, you have to watch the first 15 minutes. First of all, it's probably got the second best theme song in all of spaghetti westerns we used to call it Bolero. It's actually called Dance of Danger.
Mm-hmm.
The best one is A Rope and a Colt, played by Scott Walker. But when he lifts up the guy's head and recognizes it's his father, he shoots Jose Manuel Martin, and he says, well, my father never did anything for me his whole life, so you might as well collect a bounty on him. So he goes into town and collects the bounty, and then learns that the town is after him because his father actually owned interest in the bank and the saloon. What's really cool, Jay, is at the very end, when he goes to collect the bank ownership, the Cluster's son walks in. It's the first time you see him in the movie. It's George Eastman. So it's like a surprise twist. All of a sudden, here comes another spaghetti western star, George Eastman, into the picture.
Oh, that's
It's
right.
pretty
Yeah.
clever. Yeah, it's pretty clever. It's not a total comedy, but it's got its moments, and it's very well written.
I actually enjoyed it. It's entertaining, and a couple nice twists in the film. Of course, let's not forget that magical song "Dance of Danger," Tom, sung by
Yeah,
Dino.
And Fernando Sancho plays more like a Pedro Sanchez character, like in Sabata. He's hanging around Lee Van Cleef all day. Well, Fernando Sancho hangs around Glenn Saxon all day. He doesn't play the mean outlaw. He plays a town guy.
Right. So it's a good film, as is the next one. So both of these actors, both Antonio Sabato and Glenn Saxon, made decent spaghetti westerns. It's not like they're not. Yeah, it's not like there's a dumb comedy where they're both playing priests or monks or trying to rob a
they're
bank.
not cheaply made either. Yeah, they've got decent bit of money spent on these things.
Right, definitely. So the next film, which is a good one, if I can find the poster, is The Magnificent Texan, or El Magnifico Texano, 10 Orcas para un Pistolero, and El Magnifico Texano is the Italian title. 1967 Italian-Spanish production, directed by Luigi Capuano, and it's with Glenn, of course, and the great John Barracuda, Tom.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. Renee Hoger is in this again, Barbara Loy.
Me, buddy.
Yeah, there's a Louise in Dooney sighting, and Roberto Messina. And in Santa Clara.
Don't forget Helen Ward. Don't forget Helen Ward. Don't forget Helen Ward.
And let's see, in Santa Clara, the town is overrun by a gang of robbers, which the sheriff can do nothing about because Judge Wilkins is always able to prove their innocence and lay the blame on the local Mexican population. The fact is that Wilkins is the true leader of the band, and massacres and violence continue until a mysterious masked stranger appears in town, who is none other than Manuel Lopez, played by Saxon, a child that miraculously survived the massacre of his family 15 years earlier. Tom, that sounds a little bit like 20 Years for Revenge.
Yeah, really.
But anyway, for the love of Evelyn Wilkins, played by Barbara Loy, the only daughter of Judge Wilkins, Manuel clears his soul of revenge by deciding to return justice to that area with the help of of the sheriff and some of his Mexican friends, the young man eliminates the gang while Judge Wilkins is killed by his own wife, played by Helen Wart, as you said. Falling prey to the madness, Manuel and Evelyn can now live in peace in the countryside where peace has returned. So it's a nice little film, and you like this role better than go with Shoot Django Shoot?
Well, you don't like Zorro movies, and this is basically what it is. It's sort of like Robert Wood's Star Black.
Oh God.
He wears a mask, but I like this film very much. It's probably right behind Django Shoots first.
Okay, well, Tom, no, that's actually not true. Robert Woods doesn't wear a mask in Star Black. He wears a black silk stocking.
Yeah, he wears a hood. Yeah, right.
Over his face. You're right. It is a Zorro movie. I'm not a fan of Zorro movies, but this wasn't bad. I have to give it credit. Actually, I enjoyed it. So I guess I forgot about the Zorro aspect of the film, but it is a Zorro film. You're right. Anyway, so then after this film, he made another good spaghetti western. So both of these guys made good spaghetti westerns. I don't think there's a bad spaghetti western in either of their filmographies. The Long Day of the Massacre, Tom, and
that's a good one.
68 production, Il Lungo Giorno del Massacre, and it stars the great Peter Martell and Manuel Serrano, Liz Barrett, and Daniela Gordano. And let's see if I can find the poster for this one. There we go. It's a good poster. And Joe Williams, played by Peter Martell, is a former sheriff of Kansas City. He's unjustly accused of the murder of 2 farmers, which was actually done by the gang of the Mexican bandit La Muerte, the Death. In order to obtain a confession serving to clear him, Joe trails La Muerte, played by Manuel Serrano, and when he finally locates him, he's able to stop a bank robbery planned by the bandit. Unfortunately, Joe is captured by La Muerte, but is saved by the arrival of the sheriff and his posse. And after a fierce gun battle, during which Joe saves the life of the sheriff, played by Saxson, Sheriff Evans, the band of La Muerte is finally eliminated. And the sheriff realizes that Joe couldn't have committed the crime or the double murder and cancels the arrest warrant on the spot, allowing him to get away and cross the nearby border. Not a really big role, Tom, for Saxson in this one.
No, he plays secondary to Peter Martell in this, but it's still, a pivotal role.
Yeah, he plays Martell's former deputy and friend, and it deals, Tom, with the rights of suspects, Tom.
Right.
You get your rights read, and you got to get a lawyer, and you got to have due process, right, Tom?
They should have called him Miranda in this one, and he's not guilty until proven guilty. You're innocent until proven guilty.
Right, but wasn't there a spaghetti western called Miranda, Tom?
No, I don't think so.
With Gloria Milland is Miranda. Anyway, I would have starred her in that.
I think Roberto Genuzzi's making that one.
Okay, Roberto Genuzzi will make that one, Tom. I will suggest that to him. But anyway, our last spaghetti western by Glenn Saxon, I think, is the top 3 greatest titles for a spaghetti western in history, Tom. If one is born a swine, kill him.
Oh yeah, what a great one! Like Minnesota State.
One of my favorites of all time.
Sure.
Now, it's also known as lynching, Tom, but that's also a Brett Halsey movie.
Yeah, is it? Well, there's a lynching with who's the? Can't think of his name. Richardson. What's her name's husband?
Oh, okay, but so there's 3 lynching movies.
I think, lynching probably one of those films that was used a bunch of different times.
Yeah, but to me, it's just the Brett Halsey movie. That's the lynching.
Thinking of John Richardson was in Lynching.
Oh, that's right. This one's also known as Cry of Death or Corone Si Nace. But lynching in some circles, it might even have a video title of that. But Glenn Saxon's in it. The great Gordon Mitchell is in it. He's on a great poster for it where he's pointing 2 guns. And Philippe Hersaint is in it, the actress known only as Mavi, Tom. Didn't you once date her?
No.
Okay. Baldini, Baldini is one of our favorites, and of course the great John Bartha is in this film. And the story goes, let's see who directed it. Of course, Alfonso Brescia. So anyway, in Houstonville, Texas, a group of farmers are among other major shareholders of the local bank, which closes mortgages, harassing farmers, and have been subjected to every kind of humiliation. The judge of the county sends a marshal to investigate, and at the same time, the famous killer Morgan Pitt, played by Gordon Mitchell, dressed all in black, Tom?
Yeah, most of the time, very dark.
He's nicknamed the Mule, which, Tom, weren't you called that in high school?
Yeah.
Okay. He arrives in town, and an article in the Houstonville newspaper states that the Marshal Harrison, played by Saxson, is famous for his rigorous investigations. So this puts the banking group in a state of concern as they were being behind the lynching of Ryan, a settler, fearing that they too will be discovered. So they hire Pitt to kill the lawman, which will halt the investigation. But Harrison and the Mule, whose true identity is that of a federal marshal, manage, after various problems, to expose and subdue the sinister gang. Nice support of spaghetti western regulars. And the funny thing is, you think Mitchell's going to be the bad guy, Tom, but he's actually a good guy.
Yeah, a couple of these spaghetti westerns, you think the bad guy is the villain. And at the end, they turn around and they're a federal agent, they're a marshal undercover, something like that. And this is one of those twists.
Right. And it's got a good score, Tom. You know who does the score?
Score is done by Lalo Gori.
Oh, yeah. Very well done. And it's a good film. If one is born as swine, kill him. One of the great titles in spaghetti western history. So as you can see, both of these guys, Antonio Sabato and Glenn Saxson, made some very good spaghetti westerns. Nothing great, nothing classic. Probably the best out of all of them is probably Beyond the Law, and Twice a Judas after that. But it's actually, they both made some decent spaghetti westerns. So if you haven't seen any of these, it wouldn't be remiss to say go ahead and find it or rent it, or if you collect spaghetti western DVDs like we do, you should add these to your collection. So anyway, as part one of the show is over, we now move on to our segments that we brought back due to the massive emails I keep getting. They go, Jay, we'd like it for the second part, you would take a back seat and let Tom take over the show. So who am I to argue with our fan base? So anyway, we'll discuss first Tom. Tom has I have a great book collection, but nothing compared to Tom's. So we will now bring you Tom's Book of the Week.
Okay, this is for you fans of Professor Frayling who love that detailed work and really get into the themes or analysis. This one is called The Spaghetti Western, a thematic analysis by Bert Fridland. And it really gets deep. There aren't too many pictures in here, but he's one of these guys that thinks that all Westerns are based on one or two theories. And so, the murdered family member, kidnappings, treasure hunts, that kind of stuff, and breaks down a ton of spaghetti westerns to fit that narrative. So if you like analysis, it's up your alley. If you don't like it, I'd skip it.
I actually enjoy the book, Tom.
Good for you.
I occasionally like a good analysis, yeah. As long as he doesn't talk down to you, I'm good. But no, you can tell this guy knows what he's talking about. And yeah, there are no pictures, which is fine because there's a set of poster photo books you can get. But this is it's a thematic analysis. Hello, he tells you in the title. So, but that's his opinion, and I share some of the views in the book, Tom.
It's okay, but to me it's rather dry.
Okay, yeah, it's a little bit dry. It needs some mustard, Tom. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It needs some mustard and mayo. It's like a dry pastrami on rye. But anyway,
Professor Tony Williams would enjoy this one more than the normal fan. But
right, well, me and him, I guess.
Yep.
But I think it's still available, and it's also in PDF form if you want to get that version. So let's move on now to our next feature on the Spaghetti Westerns podcast. And that would be one of my favorites. I've shown all of mine during the course of our first season. So we will continue with Tom's autograph collection.
Okay, autograph of the week. Raquel Welch.
What does that say, Tom? See you in 2 minutes?
I think it says, quit bothering me, go away. Signed Raquel Welch. Too bad it's not a, something from 100 Rifles or Hanny Calder, but, you got to get what you got to get.
Right. Not a great look for her with the short hair, Tom.
No, I don't like the short hair at all.
But she is a spaghetti Western actress, no doubt, with Hanny Calder. You got to get the one I got, Tom, where she's, the Hanny Calder card. But anyway, that's fine. So let's move on to the next spaghetti Western part of the show. And that is our favorite, one of our favorites. Let's see how many rips or tears that Tom can avoid with Tom's Poster Attic.
Okay, I'm going to try and do most of these sitting down, but some of them are pretty big, so I'm going to have to stand up.
Well, that means a tear, a rip, or a crease is probably going to happen.
Well, some of these are decent sized. Like
oh, they're small, Tom.
This one, yeah.
That's a mini poster. Oh, it's from a kind of a promo newsletter.
It's like an ad mat, that they
Nice.
send out with the film. And then we got Hate for Hate. They use the same design on every single poster in every country. So there's not a lot of variety.
Oh,
Belgium,
yes, and that's the
US,
Belgian, Tom?
Yeah, it's a Belgium.
Now, this one's already been taped up already.
Again,
Yeah, that's the one I have.
but they're all the same. There's no.
There's a bump.
You see some different variations from country to country, but not with this one. Then we've got. I've probably shown this one before.
That's the one I have too,
Beyond the
Tom. That's a
Law.
nice one. That's the German.
There's Antonio down the bottom.
Oh, that's not bad at all, Tom.
Yep.
I think you have a never-ending supply of posters, Tom. Oh, there's another one in the same movie.
Yep.
I Came, I Saw, I Shot.
Magnificent Texan.
Known as Herha, Tom.
Hurrah. Maybe hurrah. Then we get into the Glenn Saxson.
That's the famous kind of poster for that film.
Yep, that's Belgium.
Yes, it is.
And Django Shoots First.
Right.
Again.
Very cool.
And I think I've got one more, Joe. That's it. That's everything I got.
Oh, so there's Tom's poster gallery, everybody. So I hope you enjoy that. We show that every week. And so those are our three. We show autograph of the week, poster of the week, and book of the week. And of course, we would be remiss without Tom telling us exactly what's happening in the world of spaghetti westerns in the form of Blu-rays, obits, birthdays, gatherings, screenings, premieres, and everything else in the world of spaghetti westerns. So ladies and gentlemen, here is the weekly news.
Okay, got a couple of DVD Blu-rays released this week. First one is a British Blu-ray DVD release of The Great Silence, directed by Sergio Corbucci and starring Jean-Louis Trintignant, Klaus Kinski, and Frank Wolff. Released on the Eureka Entertainment label. It's a limited edition of 3,000 copies. Contains 2 discs in English and Italian with English subtitles and a running time of 106 minutes. The extras include an O-card, slipcase, Reversible poster featuring the film's original artwork, set of 4 facsimile lobby cards, and a collector's booklet featuring new writing by our friend Western expert Howard Hughes. Also, there's a brand new commentary by Howard Hughes, an audio commentary by Mike Siegel, a new interview with Austin Fisher, author of Radical Frontiers and Spaghetti Westerns, Politics and Violence in Italian Cinema. There's also one with Alex Cox on Carbucci. It's 15 minutes long. There's an audio commentary by director and spaghetti western aficionado Alex Cox, recorded live at the Hollywood Theater in Portland, Oregon in 2021. Western Italian style 1968 documentary, 38 minutes. 2 alternate endings, both fully restored in 4K with optional audio commentaries. Trailers, Stills Gallery, that was released on November 29th, so that's a biggie. Then there's some German releases. Der Einsam aus dem Westen, or A Man Called Sledge, was directed by Vic Morrow and starring James Garner, Dennis Weaver, Claude Akins, John Marley, and Laura Antonelli by Explosive Media. It's widescreen in German and English with German and English subtitles. Running time of 92 minutes. That was released on December 2nd. Another German one is Fahr zur Halle Gringo, which is Land Raiders, directed by Nathan Duran and starring Telly Savalas, George Maharis, and Arlene Dahl, also Guy Rolfe. Also by Explosive Media. It's in German and English, both language and subtitles. Running time 101 minutes. That was released on December 2nd. And the third German release, Blu-ray and DVD, limited release of 1,000, is Deadlock, directed by Roland Klick, starring Mario Adorf, Betty Siegel, Anthony Dawson, and Marquand Bohm. It was released on Media Target Distribution, contains 2 discs, and it runs 93 minutes with German and English languages and subtitles. Extras include an 82-page hardcover book and cardboard sleeve. That was released on November 23rd. There's the covers of what they look like. If you see those are new releases, so pick them up on Amazon. And this is sort of unbelievable that they released Land Raiders at the same week. Arlene Dahl, who's in Land Raiders, passed away. She was an MGM star, 1950s glamour girl who later became a beauty writer and cosmetics entrepreneur. She died November 29th in New York at the age of 96. Dahl was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota on August 11, 1925, and is of Norwegian heritage. Following high school, she joined a local drama group and did a variety of odd jobs, including modeling for department stores. She arrived in Hollywood in 1946 and signed a short-lived contract with Warner Brothers. However, her name is most commonly associated with their work under contract at MGM. Some of her notable films were Reign of Terror in 49, Three Little Words 50, Woman's World 54, Slightly Scarlet 56, and Journey to the Center of the Earth in 1959. She left movies in 1959 and parlayed her reputation as a classic beauty into becoming a beauty columnist and later a businesswoman, founding Arlene Dahl Enterprises, which marketed lingerie and cosmetics. She was married 6 times. 2 husbands were spaghetti western actors or Euro western actors, Lex Barker and Fernando Lamas. She is survived by her husband, Mark Rosen, son Lorenzo Lamas, as well as 2 other children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. So it's sort of odd that she died the same week that Land Raiders was released. And that's the news of the week.
Well, that's very interesting, Tom. And yeah, Arlene Dahl, definitely. She was a classic actress from
Golden Age.
Yeah, from the golden age of Hollywood, exactly. Anyway, so that's about it for today's, I guess, show that we discussed the spaghetti westerns of Antonio Sabato and Glenn Saxson, both great actors in the genre. And we hope that Tom and I have enlightened you on what films of theirs to perhaps get and to go out and find them. And maybe the book that Tom mentioned you'll want to read. And, just we're here to enlighten you. If you already know, I'm glad you joined us. We're just two guys talking about spaghetti westerns every week. And you're always here to join us, right, Tom?
Well, maybe we should mention, if you're looking for the DVDs, the place to go, I always go to, is the Spaghetti Western Database. They show you what's out there, and if you click on the cover, it'll show you when it was released, and it's got a link to Amazon, German, Spain, Italy, U.S., whatever. So it takes you right to the spot to order the product.
Right. Of course, the Spaghetti Western
Yeah, you don't have
Database
to
for
go
all
searching for it.
for all your needs to find out what's happening in the world of spaghetti westerns. So anyway, Tom, another episode is in the can, and next week I think we'll do a show on Vasily Karas, Tom.
Yeah, another actor we asked to be on the show.
He was about to come on, and he got stage
on.
fright. So there's nothing we can do about it, folks. We've asked about 8 spaghetti western people to come on the show, and I don't think that we're not taking it personal. I don't think it has to do with Tom or I, because the second I mentioned Tom Betts, they're like, oh, they want to come on the show.
That's the mistake. Go just don't even mention that.
But once I mentioned to them, they sometimes think, because they're old school, they think, are you coming over to do the interview, or are you sending a film crew? No. It's a podcast in the comfort of your own home, and they don't understand how the technology works. So I think there's kind of either that or there's a communication interference. But in the case of Vasily, he was really interested until he found out it was going to be a live podcast. But nothing against him. Most of these spaghetti western stars are up in age, and maybe they're just, he wasn't alone. A few others said the same thing. If this were 20 years ago, they might come on. But anyway, so for the great Tom Betts, Tom, what do we say to everybody?
Adios, amigos.
Adios, amigos. And I always say adios, compañeros.